back to my channel if you're not new, but if you are new, welcome. My name is Tika and welcome to my little side of the internet. I'm very happy to have you here and I really hope you consider staying, so don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So guys, this week I don't have a weekend vlog for you guys. This weekend I really took time to myself to just, relax, get some R&R in, watch some TV, sleep. I really needed a lot of sleep. If you guys hear any noise, there's a lot of wind blowing. Can't really do anything about that. So this week I actually decided to do a story time. This story time is personal, of course. So I guess you guys gonna find out a little bit of my business, but it's not anything that's really a secret. Most people, if you're around me, you would know, but if you're not around me every day, then this would be new to you. So for those of you who don't know, I'm a mother of two. I have a daughter who is 12. She's about to be 13. I have an almost teenager. I don't know how to feel about it. And then I have a son. So I became a mom at 21. I missed teenage pregnancy by a smidgen. Thank God. You would think that because I wasn't a teenage mother that, people wouldn't be as mean. From my experience, I feel like it was worse, because in their mind it's like, okay, you weren't a teenage mom, but then you still went and, got pregnant and made this child and whatnot. I think people were more devastated than me that I became a mother young. People had a lot to say, and those of you who became a mother young, you all would know exactly what I'm talking about. Men, they never get all this hate and people don't talk about them as much, but we as the women go through so much when we have children young, which of course is unfair, but that's the way society is. And I thank God that I had the few people that I had were a good support. So people had all sorts of things to say, right? Some person said, oh, I ruined my life. They wanted to find the guy and beat him up. It was absolutely crazy. But again, I had a good support system. So I was actually doing my degree at the point in time. So I actually finished my degree. I actually did my final exams when my daughter was 2 weeks old. My mom had her in the car outside while I was doing my exam. Right. So that's why I say, the few people I had in my circle were a great support. I never felt like I was held back. I got a great job. I've moved up. Life is good, but obviously, at that time with people saying all those things, it did take a mental toll on me. But again, I thank God that I'm here today and I can testify and say that, I made it through. But now to the juicy part. So when my daughter was about 2.5, she was developing fine. She was babbling, talking, using all her motor skills, walking, everything. Everything was great, right? There was never any indication at that point in time that she wasn't developing as a typical child. When she was almost 3, I noticed that her babbling had sort of subsided, right? Meaning that, all the goo-goo gagas and trying to repeat my words had subsided. And then it came to a point where it actually stopped. And then I noticed that, she wasn't developing her fine motor skills. Now, fine motor skills would be things like holding a pencil or a crayon to color, those sorts of things, being able to button up a shirt. I mean, most toddlers can't really do that, but, there were indications that something was awry in her development. So at that point in time, this was again 12 years ago, and it's so funny, it seems like just yesterday, but people's thinking was so archaic even just 12 years ago. When I saw those signs, my mom and we ended up taking her to a developmental specialist, and at that time it cost, I think it was $1,000 for a developmental test. If you guys want to know more about what that is and what it entails, I can always make another video about that because it's very lengthy and very detailed. But basically, when she did the test, she was diagnosed with autism. She was placed on the spectrum. At that point in time, this was something I'd never ever heard about, ever. I was 21, I was young. This is not something that I was thinking about. Nowhere in my mind when I was pregnant or anything did I think to myself, oh, my child may be placed on the spectrum, or she may be born with a disability or something. That was never on my mind. You always pray for a happy, healthy baby, and she was very happy, very healthy, still is very happy and very healthy. When word got out that she was placed on the spectrum, all hell broke loose. There were people in my family saying like, oh, you see, you shouldn't have gotten pregnant. And there were people who called her retarded. There were people who, just had mean and horrible things to say. I won't bother to repeat them because it doesn't make any sense. What I would say though is that you really shouldn't pelt stones when you live in a glass house, according to the old people, because some of those same people are in situations today that I wouldn't even comment on. So getting this news now, I wouldn't say that I felt defeated. What I would say is that I was scared, but not for myself. I was scared for her, because we live in a world where people don't really accept persons that are different. I don't like to use the word disabled or differently abled or special. It's just that we have things that make us unique. So got this news, started to map out a plan, because that's the kind of person I am. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh gosh, my child on the spectrum, the whole world falling apart. For me, I wanted to ensure that if anything did happen to me, that she would be okay. So I started doing my research, and in researching, I was able to understand more of what autism is, and understand that, it wasn't a death sentence or something to really be scared about. We were blessed in the fact that she was diagnosed at an early age, because I'm telling you, there are people that are adults today that are undiagnosed, and they don't know why. They have such a difficult time socializing or such a difficult time learning. There are so many people that are undiagnosed, and that's kind of why I'm making this video to bring about awareness to things like autism and ADHD that a lot of people don't really know about. After doing research, I mapped out a plan. She was going to do speech therapy and occupational therapy. Now guys, these things were not cheap. Speech therapy at that time was $300 a week. So that was $1,200 a month. And then occupational therapy was $400 a week. So that was $1,600 a month. So this is me going from no children, no responsibility, no bills, to a child with autism and having all these bills all of a sudden to pay in the space of 3 years. And what made it even more challenging is the fact that the insurance company that I was in, so I was in my company's insurance plan, and that insurance company did not cover therapy. Don't ask me why, but they did not cover therapy. They do now, but at that point in time, this would have been about 9 years ago, they did not cover therapy. So all of this money I had to spend out of pocket to ensure that she got the therapy that she needed. Therapy started, and it was an experience. I remember the first month when she went to therapy, the therapist, the speech pathologist, that's the correct name, the speech pathologist had her sitting on a little table doing, whatever they do. And Justine was below the table screaming. She did not want to sit. She didn't want to hear nothing about no therapy, right? Because she wasn't. A lot of people who are on the spectrum, they don't understand changes, and this was something new to her. She, after about a month or two, she got into the routine, because again, persons on the spectrum do well with routine. So at that point in time, she realized, okay, I'm coming here every week, this is fine, it's not gonna do anything to me, it's all good. But initially, she was not hearing any part of that. She would freak out, she didn't know why she was here. And it was really challenging at that point in time, because I was like, God, I'm spending all this money. Is this going to work? So about 6 months into therapy, I really started to see a change in obviously her speech, and where the occupational therapy helped with a bit of behavior and, her fine motor skills and some major motor skills also. But then it was coming apparent that, she needed a bit more. And God always works in mysterious ways, and I always tell people I am one of God's favorites, because her speech pathologist at the point in time decided to open a school specifically for persons on the spectrum. Because in Trinidad, unfortunately, a lot of these special needs schools, they don't really have like divisions for everyone. So they sort of take persons with autism, persons with Down syndrome, persons with ADHD, and they just lump them all together. And based on where you are on the spectrum or what you're diagnosed with, you're going to need different things. Not everyone is going to follow the same treatment plan. And I don't want to put her in one of these schools where she'll just be lumped with everyone and not getting any special attention. So again, I know you're going to hear me say this a lot, but I thank God that at that point in time, her speech pathologist decided to open up a school. And funny enough, it was opened up a few minutes from where I was living at the point in time. I was living in Woodbrook at the point in time, and the school was in Woodbrook. So again, that's why I always say I'm one of God's favorites for sure. But here's the kicker, everything won't be a bed of roses. While on one hand, her speech pathologist was opening a school specifically catered to children on the spectrum, the cost was $11,500 TT dollars per term. When I heard that, my stomach fell to the floor. And I'm probably sure some of your jaws just dropped open. Like all that money, $11,000 a term. Yeah, $11,500 a term. And guess what? I was able to pay every single term for 3 years, okay? Mind you, my salary was less than half of that. At that point in time, I think I was working for like $5,500 or somewhere between $5,000 to $5,500. That's how much I was working for, right? And here, these people were telling me I had to pay $11,500 a term. That's every 3 months. That's basically my whole salary every 3 months. I didn't really panic. I was just like, God, you can't give me such a nice opportunity and then take it away from me so fast. So eventually I came up with the idea to do a fundraiser. And a lot of times we hear people having fundraisers for all these things and we kind of skin up our face like, oh gosh, another breakfast box or another barbecue or another curry. But now I was in a position where I had to go to people and be like, hey guys, I'm having a breakfast box for medical purposes. So, I got a few people who were like, oh God, another breakfast box, whatever. But what I would say, the majority of support, it was so overwhelming. And again, you can't tell me that God isn't good, because one term was $11,500. Would you believe I actually raised $23,000 from that little breakfast box, right? There were, I think I sold, you could probably do the math, but I sold hundreds of boxes. I was just amazed. I was like, wow, oh my God, I came up with all this money. I was so happy. And within those 2 terms, she really, really began to thrive and come into her own. She started to develop her own personality because she was getting everything that she needed. Now, the school entailed therapy and life skills, and also teaching them work that a typical child would learn in school. So all the ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, colors, all those different things, right? So it was worth the $11,500 a term. Now, for the next few years, I would have done different things. Like, I did one more fundraiser. I also got help. I took a loan. I did all sorts of things. And for those 3 years, she was able to go. So she went to that school from when she was almost 4 to almost 7, right? Almost 3 years. And then she started primary school. And I'm happy to say that to this day, she's doing great, like more than great. Like, I am so blessed. She is so blessed. I just feel so overwhelmed with gratitude and, just thankfulness to God for really ensuring that, He took care of us, because I would not have been able to do it without God. Like, there's nothing anyone could tell me. This was all God. So I don't want to make this video too lengthy, because I know people don't really like a lot of talking, but this is a story time after all. But I'll close off by saying these few things. One, I don't know if you have a relationship with God, if you're working on one, if you don't believe in God, if you have a relationship with Him, whatever it is, I just want to encourage you to get closer to God. Because without Him, nothing is possible. And with Him, nothing is impossible. Because 12 years ago, I never believed I would have a child, diagnosed with autism and have to go through all these things. But here I am. Well, I want to say here I am standing, but here I am sitting down, being able to testify to you guys that, with God, anything that seems impossible is actually possible. Second thing I would say, guys, if there's anyone around you, child or adult, that is struggling in terms of learning, struggling in terms of being able to socialize, like they're very awkward, or you tell them something 5 and 10 times and it just not sticking, I encourage you to get them tested for either ADHD, dyslexia, autism. There are a whole lot of things that persons may have and they're going undiagnosed and being really isolated. A lot of them are being treated unfairly, and unfortunately the society we live in, a lot of them are being left behind because no one is taking the time to be like, hey, I feel like this person may be on the spectrum, let's get them diagnosed. So you may be that one person who's watching this video right now to really take the time and be patient and understand what they're going through. And there are a lot of free resources. The doctor that actually diagnosed my daughter at a point in time, she was working at Mouto. I do understand that the public system does take some time and not everyone has $1,000 to fork out and go and get this test done privately. But you can still put your name on the waiting list. I hear now that they actually move pretty fast, especially when it comes to, doing diagnostics and all these things. So go put their name on the waiting list and get your child tested for ADHD, dyslexia, autism, or whatever you suspect they may have. So that's the end of my story time, guys. This one was really close to my heart because, again, it's very personal to me. April is Autism Awareness Month. Autism Day was actually April 2nd. And I have my little pin, which I should have put on for this video. Just 1 second, let me go get it. So here's my pin for Autism Awareness. It's a little puzzle piece. You can always go and Google it and understand exactly what all the colors mean and why they chose, a puzzle piece. So as usual, thank you guys so much for watching. And again, thank you guys for all the love and support you have been showing all my previous videos. I hope this one gets even more, because this is very near and dear to my heart. So thanks for watching. Bye.